January 8th, 2015.
Mm.
I may be getting this right. Blog post, 2,354 words, I believe. So this is the big one. This is the mother lode. And my question is, before the blog post became The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, what other names did you consider for that? If you even remember. And or how did you just end up with the title? Because you think a lot about wordsmithing and crafting. And I know you spent time on this, and I know you have spent a lot of time thinking about headlines and titles. So what was the process of getting to that?
So there's not really a way to answer that without kind of going back a little bit and talking about what that era of social media was and what kind of my whole process was back then.
Great.
I think I had my first like mega viral post in 2012, early 2013. And what I don't think it took a while for everybody to figure out, but it was right around then that Facebook turned on the spigot of reach for outside published material. Like Facebook kind of decided that they wanted to be the newspaper for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you were able to write an attention grabbing headline, a little bit of copy, have a intriguing image, you would just go crazy on that platform. And so the big growth spurt that happened in my audience was on Facebook from 2013 to 2015. Subtle Art was actually one of the last viral articles I had in a series of probably 8 or 10 very viral articles over that 2-year period. I kind of discovered this and then started refining a process. And as you pointed out, like a huge part of the process was title. I just realized the title is almost as important as the entire article itself. So I started spending hours just writing out dozens and dozens of titles. And I also just kept around title ideas that I had.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a Google Doc that I'd be out at dinner with a friend and he'd make a joke and I'm like, oh, that'd be a really good article title. And I'd like pull out my phone and jot it down on the Google Doc. So The Subtle Art, the title had been sitting on that Google Doc for a while. So I'm a big metal fan. And the band Lamb of God has a song called The Subtle Art of Murder and Persuasion. And it was right around that time. I forget, I had a couple articles with another thing about Facebook's algorithm at the time. I noticed that if I just put fuck in the title, you would get like 50% more juice.
Turbo boost.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a cheat code for Facebook. My mind was already in a spot where I'm like looking
back in the wholesome good old days. The F word. Oh my God.
So, my mind, I was already kind of existing in a headspace where I'm always on the lookout for like a clever use of the F word. And so I was listening, I was a huge fan of Lamb of God, and that song comes on my iPhone or whatever, The Subtle Art of Murder and Persuasion. And I was like, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And I was like, wow, that's really catchy. And then it sat on the document for a while. And then it's actually funny kind of how the article got written. It sat there for many months. I never really felt the inspiration to do something with it. And then there was a period, that holiday, the Christmas and New Year's right before that, like, as you said, it came out January 8th. That holiday was really shitty for a variety of personal reasons. It was just one of those Christmas holidays that you're like, fuck, why do I have a family? And like, do I have to spend time with these people? So, I was coming out of that in a pretty bummed out state.
Yeah.
My wife, who I was not engaged to yet at the time, there was like visa trouble. So she was, stuck in Brazil. So I'm like, basically, I was actually in Austin. I was sitting alone, like basically just moping in Austin for a few weeks. And when I get mopey, I get very, very snarky and like bitingly sarcastic. And so it was time to write an article, and I pull up the list and I see that title and I'm like, you know what? I am going to write the most offensive, profane thing I can possibly imagine, but I'm also going to give the best possible advice that I imagine I can give. I'm going to combine the two things, and I just want to create that like dissonance in people. And so I wrote it, and I thought it was completely over the top and ridiculous. And, you know, sometimes when you write something, I'm sure you have this experience, like you can't really tell if it's good or not. Like
you're too close to it. Yeah.
So I put it away. I woke up the next day. I was still unsure about it. And I sent it to my content guy, official title. And I told him, who also kind of acts as an editor for me. And I told him, I was like, I don't even know if I want to post this. It's pretty ridiculous. And he came back on Slack in like all caps. And he was like, you can fire me. I'm posting this fucking thing. He's like, this is the best thing. We have to post this. And sure enough, he was right. Like it went absolutely crazy. It was everywhere.